So one of the things that I didn't tell you was that when I was 16 years old, I would ditch school to come to Hollywood Hills, come to Beverly Hills, and I would window shop all day long, and I would also go look at the homes all day long. And I literally would drive, and I would say, one day I want to be here. And when I look back at that, I was exposing myself to the dream.
Absolutely.
Right? And again, when I talk about the reticular mind, it gives you, so your conscious mind gives it back to your conscious mind, only your beliefs, your dreams and goals, right? And what you need for survival.
Right.
I was obsessed with living in Hollywood Hills. I was obsessed with
just the same way that you were obsessed with getting that eclipse.
Yeah, same way.
Yeah, and going back to that moment when you lost your car, when they stole your car, you were literally at that moment you thought that you were about to lose your life. And the way that I see it as that was your biggest blessing in disguise.
Yeah.
Because you had two options: either play the pity party, why me? Why does this always happen to me? I'm never gonna get anywhere. Or you step up, raise your standards, and that's what you did.
Yeah.
And because you did that, you started attracting things into your life. Because I'm a firm believer, Wayne Dyer says this, when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. It was the same thing, but you just changed the way that you looked at it. And because you changed the way that you looked at it, you're like, I'm worth $100,000. I have the capability. I believe in myself. There's something powerful that you have that I've studied a lot of successful people, and is the mindset. So I want to touch on that. How powerful how important it's mindset and belief and having that ultimate faith that is possible for you. Because we're not programmed like that. Like, again, you touched on, we're programmed on survival. We always want to survive. And that's how society, unfortunately, has programmed us. How important it was for you, still you're in that environment that is struggle, survival. How did you overcome that? How did you change your thinking?
Yeah, I think, going back to that eclipse story, most of your going comes from when you're going through discomfort, is typically when you grow the most.
Absolutely.
And when I got a gun to my head, and then literally not less than a week, then I get laid off, that was probably the most discomfort I had ever gone through, because I thought
setback after setback.
Setback after setback. When it rains, it pours. But again, another good Ed Milet quote is, he says, nothing happens to you, it happens for you.
Absolutely.
And I believe that happened for me because it made me think different, and it finally got me to have that, again, become, right? And again, when I was in that apartment with my mom, I would always go to bed saying, I don't know how I'm gonna do this, but I'm gonna make at least $100,000 a year. And I had that number in my head, and I literally would talk, I'd see it every night. And
that's so powerful.
Where that came from is because my sister was dating this guy that was selling cars, and who she ended up marrying, and he was making about $100,000 a year. So I was exposed to him. It was the only guy that I saw that was successful. And I just thought, man, if he's making that type of money, I'm gonna make that type of money. And I just said, some way, somehow, I'm gonna make it. And again, so it starts with you believing, right? And when you believe, you gotta become, right? So it starts with you saying, I'm worth at least $100,000 a year. Then the next step is you have to, because you believe in it and you have faith, you take that first step. That's the part where people miss, right? Because everybody says, oh yes, I believe, but then they don't take the first step. Well, if you don't take the first step, you're not taking action. And a lot of people don't take the step because their fear paralyzes you. Because the first thing they think is, well, how am I going to do it? Well, you can't think of the how. If you think of the how, you're going to psych yourself out.
Yeah.
What you got to do is think of the why. Why are you doing it, right? So again, back to that moment when I was 21 years old and I was making $70,000 a year, and I had this opportunity to start my own company. I didn't know how it was going to happen. I just knew why I needed to do it. I needed to do it because I made a promise to my mom that one day I was going to buy her house. And I made a promise to myself that one day I was going to live in Hollywood Hills. And I knew that if I stayed working, making 60, 70 grand a year,
No,
there was no way that was going to happen. Even though everybody was telling me, man, you're doing well. For 21 years old, you're making this type of money. You're doing you're awesome. But for me, that wasn't my why. My why was I need to take care of my mom. I need to take care of my siblings. I need to take care of my dad so he doesn't start getting into that bad business again. And I also want to take care of myself because one day I want to live in Hollywood Hills. That was my why, and that's why I took action and I resigned. Everyone was like, dude, you're freaking crazy. Like, what are you doing resigning from a job like that?
So you let go of your $70,000 job guarantee to nothing.
To nothing, yeah. I mean, for my dream. But again, if I wouldn't have been exposed, if my reticular brain wouldn't have been exposed to that, those were my dreams and goals, right? That's why it was so easy for me, because those were my dreams and goals, and that was my belief. My belief is I'm going to end up here. I don't know how. I just know I'm going to end up here. So that's why for me it was an easy decision. Whereas somebody that maybe never, because again, I was doing that at 16 years old. I was coming here and I was looking at, I loved the restaurants, I loved the women down here, I loved everything about this whole lifestyle. If I wouldn't have been exposed at 16 to all that, then that would have been my dream, that wouldn't have been my goal, that wouldn't have been my what I needed for survival, because I was obsessed with it, and then obviously that wouldn't have been my belief, right? So when that opportunity would have came to me at 21, I would have said, nah, man, I'm straight, man. I'm making 70 grand a year, life's
You would have
good.
looked at it like everyone. You're leaving something for nothing, and you saw it, I'm leaving something for everything, for the rest of my life.
And again, the way I looked at it was, at the time I lived in Southgate now. I moved the parents to a nicer neighborhood in Southgate, so we were doing better. But I mean, Southgate is still a mile away from Watts.
Right.
So I thought, if I leave, I always think of a worst case scenario, okay? I leave my job, I'm not making 70 grand a year. I can't find anything else that pays me that. So I end up in Watts. Not that much different from where I'm already at. But if I make it, I end up where I've always wanted to be. I can take care of my mom, I can take care of everybody. So for me, it was an easy decision. But again, that was because I had big dreams, had big goals, and I had, that was my belief.
How important is that, having that vision? Because you
I
talk
mean,
about it so much.
I think a lot of people get stuck in a bubble, especially in California and LA. You know, they get stuck in that bubble of, oh, Huntington Park, this is as best as it's going to get. I'm never going to live here because of the way I was brought up. I'm not smart enough. I'm intimidated. And again, you only truly grow from discomfort, right? And a lot of times people don't want to go through that discomfort. They don't want to hang out with people that challenge them because they're afraid, oh no, I can't go to the west side because they're going to look at me like I don't belong there. You know, I can't go eat over there. I used to come down here, and I remember the first time I ordered a nice steak, and I ordered it well done. Everybody looked at me like I was like this idiot, but I was like, oops, are you not supposed to order it well done?
I always order it well done.
You know, that's what our moms told us.
Yeah,
that's what my mom, that's where I got it from. But you're actually, if you're going to spend $80 on a steak, then you never want to order it well done, because when you order well done, you might as well have beef jerky. You might as well order from In-N-Out.
Makes sense.
The reason you're paying so much is because the juices that are in that filet mignon, you know, and that's what makes it rich and tasteful. Well, I didn't know that. So the minute you go well done, it's almost like an insult to the chef. But anyway, so again, just sometimes people don't want to get out of their bubble because they're afraid of looking, you know, dumb or looking stupid. But in reality, getting out of that bubble is what's going to expose you to a better life, and it's going to make you want to do better.
Absolutely.
You know, you realize that, wait, there's a lot more to life than just here.
Absolutely. So how did you get into the space that you're in right now in the security industry, which you're dominating right now?
Yeah.
How did you get into the sales industry and security?
Yeah, so sales at the telemarketing that I was doing, that was pretty much sales. One of the things that company did for us, they would make us study for an hour before we got on the phones to sell, and that was really probably where I got a lot of my success from, was that mindset. It was that study of hours is all mindset. So from 15 to 21, every day I was an hour of study. Then I got into the alarm business because the VP of sales says, hey, I'm going to start the alarm company. I need you to come with me.
From the other company.
Yeah, so
Okay.
I went with him to start this alarm company. And that's how I got into the industry. And then the first 10 days I didn't do very well. In fact, I didn't sell. The only reason I stayed in the industry was because my brother-in-law was the same guy that was selling cars for making 100 grand a year. I had recruited him to come sell phones, long distance I should say, and then we both came to the alarm company at the same time. He was doing 2 a day.
Wow.
And I was thinking, man, if this guy's doing 2 a day, I should be able to do 2 a day. And
How did you generate your business?
I just going door to door.
Wow.
Now,
Okay.
the reason I didn't do very well those first 10 days is because I never studied. I just thought, I sort of came with an arrogant mindset, which was I did so well at the phone company that I thought that would immediately translate into being good at alarms. So I never studied the pitch, I never studied the objections, and because of that, every time I was going to the door, I was going with fear because I didn't know what I was going to talk about. I literally was winging it. Well, when you wing it,
That showed up.
yeah, so fear gives you ignorance. When you don't know about something, that gives you fear. Knowledge is the opposite. Knowledge gives you confidence.
Yeah.
So people would see that fear and would just, run me out of the door, slam the doors on me. It wasn't because they were mean, it was just they saw fear. And I don't care what you do, when people see fear, they're gonna attack you.
Yeah, we're
If-
energy. So
Yeah,
it-
I love sports. If you're a quarterback and they see fear in you, they're going to blitz everybody. And they're going
eat
to come
you
after.
up.
They're going to eat you up. If
Yeah.
you're a basketball player and you're dribbling down and they see fear, they're going to come take that ball away from you. If you're a boxer, like the Mike Tyson days when he used to intimidate everybody, he used to see. I remember this fight that he had against Michael Spinks. He destroyed him in like less than I think it was a minute. But it was just, he could tell he was scared. I could tell he was scared, and I was barely like not 10 years old, 12 years old at the time. So that's the problem with fear is that. So what I did is that weekend after getting my butt kicked for 10 days, I came back. I was like, man, my brother-in-law is doing 2 a day. That's embarrassing. And all I did that weekend was study my material. On Monday, I came back with so much confidence. Like I literally was just, I had a little, my step was a little different. I was smiling because I just knew what I was going to do. And I remember the first door I knocked, I got. And then the second one I got. And then my
From
my
blanking
confidence,
10 days.
yeah, my confidence just went through the roof because then I got 5 in one day.
Wow.
And so I made $1,500 in one day. And I remember that night I couldn't sleep.
What was
So
going through your head at that moment?
So I'd made in one day, I had made more money than I made at the phone company without having to manage 60 people, without the stress of managing 60 people. And I just thought, man, if I could do this every day. And then in my mind just went, it just went to town on dreaming.
Numbers.
I started dreaming so big, and the next day I couldn't wait to go to work. I literally was looking at my watch. Is it 3 o'clock? Is it 3 o'clock? Because we'd start from 3 to 10. And boom, I had another good day. That same weekend I went to an open house. And that was another life-changing moment because I went to an open house. It gave me a purpose because I believe if you don't have a purpose, you'll eventually get bored and quit.
Right.
And without knowing, I went to this open house and they gave me basically a blueprint on how to get the house, which was basically, hey, come up with $12,000 and then your payment's gonna be $1,400 a month. So in my head, I'm like, well, shoot, $1,400, I make that in a day. 12,000, I just started doing the math and I said, okay, if I put away $1,000 a week for 12 weeks, I'm gonna have the deposit for my mom's house. And then the payment's gonna be easy. And then the other thing I did, I brought my mom and I said, Mom, this house will be yours in 90 days.
Wow.
So right there, I became a homeowner. I started taking action, and
You had your mom holding you accountable to
and
it.
and then I have the have, which is you got to set the date on when you're going to do something. That's another place where people fail, is if you don't set the date on when you're going to hit that goal by, it becomes a dream. It just becomes a thought,
Yeah.
right? But if you give it a date and then you go after it like your life depends on it, then it'll happen, right? And the stars will start aligning once you start taking action towards stuff. And then at that point, it's just, do you keep the promises you make to yourself? And I've always been pretty good at that, and especially the promises I make to my mom, I keep. And she started crying, I started crying. I was like, there's no way I'm going to fail. So interestingly enough, in order to make, so my bills were $4,000 a month, so I had to make $1,000 a week to pay my bills, another $1,000 a week to pay the IRS and save money, and another $1,000 a week to pay for my mom's house. So I needed to do 8 to 12 a week. There was many times that I wanted to quit, but because I had a purpose, I kept going. And because I kept going, I got results, which then gave me confidence. What happens if you don't have purpose? Unfortunately, people only work to pay their bills, most people, right? Because they don't have a purpose. So what becomes their purpose? Paying their bills, right?
Yeah.
So if you don't give yourself that, I would have made, let's say, in that week, let's say I made 10 grand. If I didn't have a purpose, I would have stopped working for the next 2 weeks because I wouldn't have had the urgency.
You would have quit at 8 o'clock instead of going all the way
Exactly,
to 10.
because plus I had a bunch of money. That's why you see a lot of guys make 10 grand in 1 week, and then you don't see them for another 3 weeks, right? Because their necessity level goes down, their urgency goes down. Well, if you have a purpose, like I did, I was like, man, I need to hit 8 to 10 every week for 90 days, because if I do that for 90 days, my mom's gonna have a house. So my necessity level never went down, my urgency level never went down, because I had a purpose. If I didn't have a purpose, I would have said, man, I make 10 grand, my bills are only 4 grand, I already got that paid off. So the next weeks, I wouldn't have had that urgency, and I wouldn't have got the deals. So I sort of tricked myself into success, because when you do something for 90 days, it sort of becomes a habit. So I was able to get her her house, and then then it was the next purpose. So that was the end of that game, and then I started a new game, which was now she wanted I promised her I'd get her an expedition as well.
So
I played that game.
How important is that, Edwin? Because you accomplished that goal. How important is to set a goal after that right away? Because again, you start getting comfortable, right?
Yeah.
So how important was to put another goal in front of you that you need to attack?
Yeah, so one of my favorite things to talk about is treat life as a game. And basically that game comes with purposes, and it comes with problems, and it comes with freedom. So the bigger the purpose,
problems, freedom.
Yeah,
Okay.
so the bigger the purpose, the bigger the problem.
Right.
Your job in life is to solve problems.
Yeah.
Literally, that's what life is you got to solve problems.
That's so true.
Once you solve the problem, then you get a little freedom. But this is where people get it mistaken. People think that we're all looking for freedom. Freedom is the worst thing that could happen to you, because when you have too much freedom, then you get bored.
You don't grow anymore.
You don't grow anymore.
Right.
And if you're not growing and you get bored, you're going to self-sabotage, and that's where you start, boom, you go on a downward spiral. So there is such a thing as freedom, but it's called restricted freedom. That means you only allow it for so long before you find your new purpose, right? So again, purpose, that means you got to understand that it comes with problems. So you got to understand that life comes with problems. And if you understand that, when problems come, they're not a big deal. Because that's
they're
part
coming.
of life.
Yeah.
You're
prepared for them, actually.
It's just another thing I got to solve.
Yeah.
You solve it, and then you have that restricted freedom. But once you have that restricted freedom, then you got to find a new purpose, and you got to do this in all parts of your life. So for me,
how much time would you give yourself?
So for me, like I call it my 4 pillars, which is the spiritual side. This is something this is a new game that I'm starting to play pretty hard, because before that wasn't a big deal for me. It was always in the back of my mind, but now I want to improve and improve and improve. After that is your family. So again, an easy example of that one is when you marry your wife, if you don't find a new purpose after you marry her, you're eventually that's gonna die out, right?
Either you're growing the relationship or it's dying.
Exactly, because nothing in life stays the same.
Right.
You're either growing
Or you're dying.
or you're dying, exactly. So if you, let's say, all of a sudden you're treating her like a queen, and then all of a sudden you marry her, and now you don't treat her like that anymore, and you don't even pay attention to her, what do you think is going to happen? It's going to get worse, right? So you have to find, and then after that, love happens, then you find a new purpose. What do we want to do as a couple? right? And let's play that game, and that game could be her supporting you in the things that you want to do, or you supporting each other on each other's purpose, right? Then it's the kid, then kids get involved, and then that becomes that. And, you always have to work on stuff. So that's the family one. The third one is the body and mind, fitness. You got to keep working on it. Again, if you had a six-pack at 22 years old, well, if you don't work on it anymore, it's going to be gone, right? So you got to constantly play a new game and improve it, right? Now you turn 30, well, guess what? You can't eat the kind of stuff you were eating at 21 because you're 30. Once you're 40, now you really have to you have to eat pretty well. Self-discipline you have to take it up a different notch. And then lastly is the business, right? The business part of it. But again, I put those three in front of business because the body is that's like your, that's the machine that makes everything go. And if the machine is doing well, then when at work, nothing's going to phase you, right? Because your body is ready for maxing out. So you're constantly playing a new game, right? Let's say you find all the riches of the world because your business is very successful. Well, now you got to, maybe my relationship with my family isn't that great. So now you got to start playing that game.
So how are you working right now on balancing everything? Because right now you have a lot of things going on, your family, everything, your business is growing so much right now. How do you manage to balance everything? Because I know that there's no actual balance. There's got to be a little here up, here down, but at the same time, that's where the beauty comes into. That's where you enjoy everything. So how do you work on that?
For me, like for my wife, and that's where you got to have a wife that supports what you do. Because for me, we one of our arguments before was I didn't spend enough time with the family, right, during the week. And finally, I was like, well, I can get home by 6 and 5 and have dinner with you guys, but I'm not going to be mentally there because I'm going to be thinking. I'm not going to be present. Because all I'm going to think about is all the things that I have to do that I didn't do, and I'm going to be miserable. So
and you're not showing up to your family the way that you're
exactly.
supposed
So
to.
I'm here at 6, but I could be around for 2 hours, but I'm not going to be present. So I said, from Monday to Friday, let me just be. And if I can make it here, I can. But I just don't expect it, but I'm going to try. Now, Saturday and Sunday, I'll give you 16 hours all dedicated to you. And that starts at 12 o'clock. So from Saturdays, I have my 6 p.m. to 12 p.m. And that's when I got to do my errands. That's when I, do what I got to do for me. And then 12 o'clock, boom, it's all family up until Monday. And then, so that's how I take care of that. And again, whenever I can during the week, I do my thing. So like this week, I was able to take my kids to their first day of school.
Wow.
So I still do things like that. And that's the beauty about being an entrepreneur and the kind of job that we have. We can do stuff like that.